Welcome to Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up, the podcast that decodes the world's most urgent intelligence and national security developments. With over 25 years of experience in intelligence and law enforcement, Neil Bisson, the director of the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network and retired intelligence officer with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, delivers expert intelligence analysis that takes you beyond the headlines. This week, Brazil exposes a secret Russian spy factory, uncovering deep cover agents living under false identities for years, signaling Moscow's persistent reach into the Western Hemisphere. In London, Irish rapper Liam O'Hara from the band Kneecaps is arrested on terrorism charges, igniting the debate on artistic expression, political protest, and the thin line between provocation and incitement. Meanwhile, Germany faces twin threats, one from a pro-Kremlin sabotage ring targeting military infrastructure, and another from a far-right youth terrorist group using social media to recruit teens as young as 14. And in South Asia, an Indian travel influencer is accused of spying for Pakistan, showing just how easily national security can be compromised in the digital age. All this and more. From state-sponsored espionage to ideological extremism, this week's stories reveal the many faces of modern national security threats. There's a lot to cover, so let's dive in.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. I'm your host, Neil Bisson, a retired intelligence officer with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service and the director of the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network. Each week, I investigate news articles from around the world dealing with national security, espionage, sabotage, foreign interference, and all things spy-related. With over 25 years of law enforcement and intelligence training and experience, I provide you with the insights, analysis, and intelligence that goes beyond the news, so you can prepare for what's happening now, and more importantly, what's happening next. From Russian spies in Brazil to an Irish rap band promoting Hamas and Hezbollah, this week has a lot to unpack, so let's get to it. For this week's first story, we're examining a bold move by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, a public campaign aimed at recruiting Chinese officials to spy for the United States. The CIA has released Mandarin language videos on social media platforms encouraging Chinese insiders to share secrets with Washington. This overt recruitment strategy has elicited strong reactions from Beijing and raises significant questions about the evolving landscape of international espionage. The CIA's recent initiative involves the dissemination of professionally produced videos in Mandarin, featuring dramatized scenarios where Chinese officials, disillusioned with their government, choose to collaborate with the CIA. These videos are not just symbolic. They provide explicit instructions on how to securely contact the agency, including guidance on using encrypted communication channels. From an intelligence perspective, this approach signifies a shift towards more transparent and widespread recruitment efforts. By leveraging social media and public platforms, the CIA aims to reach potential assets who may feel isolated or fearful within China's stringent surveillance environment. However, this strategy is not without risk. The public nature of the campaign could expose potential new CIA recruitment contacts to greater danger, and it challenges traditional clandestine recruitment methods. Moreover, it may escalate tensions between the United States and China as it directly confronts the Chinese government's authority and control over its officials. Historically, the CIA has faced significant challenges in establishing and maintaining human intelligence networks in China. In the early 2010s, China's counterintelligence efforts purportedly dismantled several CIA operations, leading to the loss of numerous assets. These setbacks highlighted the difficulties of operating within a highly denied and controlled operating environment. The current campaign can be seen as part of a broader effort to rebuild intelligence capabilities concerning China. By openly appealing to potential informants, the CIA may be attempting to circumvent traditional barriers and tap into existing discontent among Chinese officials. This method mirrors previous outreach efforts targeting officials in other nations, such as Russia and Iran, indicating a strategic pivot in recruitment tactics. One former senior CIA official expressed optimism about the campaign's potential, emphasizing confidence that some individuals will be encouraged to reach out. The videos offer a message that the CIA understands the concerns and challenges faced by potential informants, portraying the agency as an ally for those with moral and ideological opposition to their government. Others are more skeptical. Some experts question whether such overt tactics can be successful in a country with such tight internal security and media control. They also caution that the dramatized nature of the videos may not resonate with the intended audience and could even invite mockery or censorship. From my perspective, while the campaign is innovative, its success hinges on the ability to resonate with and protect potential informants regarding the credibility of the CIA's promises. The means of communications the world relies on is predominantly digital, and in response, The ways in which intelligence organizations must reach out to identify, recruit, and run human sources, assets, and agents must reflect this. In denied operating environments like Russia, Iran, and China, digital recruitment and asset management makes good sense, if it can be done safely. The psychological impact on disillusioned officials could be profound, but without guaranteed safety and anonymity, the risk may outweigh the perceived benefits for potential resources. The CIA's public recruitment campaign targeting Chinese officials marks a notable development in intelligence operations. It reflects a willingness to adapt and employ unconventional methods in response to challenges posed by operating within China's tightly controlled environment. While the approach may attract some informants, it also carries significant risks, including potential retaliation from the Chinese government and the endangerment of would-be collaborators. The effectiveness of this strategy will depend on the CIA's ability to provide secure communication channels and assurances of protection. As we observe these unfolding events, it's crucial to remain informed about the evolving dynamics in global intelligence and its implications for international relations. We head to India for our next story, which focuses on the arrest of an Indian travel vlogger, Jyoti Malhotra, who has been accused of spying for Pakistan. The case has drawn international attention, not only due to her high public profile, but also because it comes on the heels of a deadly 4-day conflict between India and Pakistan that reignited long-standing regional tensions. Indian police have arrested Jyoti Malhotra, a YouTuber from the state of Haryana, on suspicion of espionage. Malhotra has nearly 400,000 subscribers on her travel blog and is accused of sharing sensitive information with Pakistani intelligence. According to police, she was groomed by a Pakistani operative and maintained contact with him even during recent cross-border hostilities. Authorities allege that she traveled to Pakistan on sponsored trips and was part of a network of influencers in touch with Pakistani intelligence. Her motivations appear to be rooted in the pursuit of views and followers, with investigators suggesting that she may have been lured by the promise of online success. Police were clear that she did not have direct access to defense or military information, but her communications and connections raised enough concern to warrant her arrest. This incident comes during a particularly volatile time in the region. Earlier this month, India and Pakistan engaged in their most intense military exchange in decades, following a brutal massacre in India-administered Kashmir that left 26 tourists dead. India has blamed Pakistan for the attack, while Pakistan denies any involvement. In response, both countries launched retaliatory strikes using missiles, drones, and artillery fire over a 4-day period before reaching a ceasefire. Amidst this high-stakes backdrop, accusations of spying carry even greater weight. Malhotra's arrest is not an isolated case. Just days later, police in Punjab arrested 2 men suspected of leaking strategic military information to Pakistan, including details about troop movements and sensitive locations. Both are now being investigated under India's Official Secrets Act. This case illustrates how modern espionage is no longer confined to traditional government or military actors. The internet age has opened up new vulnerabilities, especially when it comes to individuals with large social media followers who may not fully understand how their content or contacts can be exploited. There's also the potential for what's known as unwitting assets or useful idiots, individuals who don't see themselves as spies, but who, through manipulation or coercion, pass along information to officials of hostile states. While Malhotra's reportedly had no access to classified material, the concern lies in her interactions and the possible exploitation of her travel to gather intelligence, build networks, or spread narratives favorable to a foreign state. There's also the opportunity for Indian authorities to send a strong message to the populace of India. You don't need to be providing government secrets to the Pakistan government to be considered a spy and arrested. This is a warning to all citizens of India that the Indian government is watching what you put online. The arrest of Jyoti Malhotra is a reminder that espionage today doesn't always involve classified documents and dead drops. It can be subtle, decentralized, and social media driven. As geopolitical tensions rise, especially between long-standing rivals like India and Pakistan, we can expect more scrutiny of cross-border interactions, especially among influencers, journalists, and others with public platforms. This case also raises important questions about how the intelligence services adapt to the digital era, much like we saw in the last story where the CIA is using it to recruit in China. Monitoring influence behavior, examining travel patterns, and scrutinizing online funding are now part of the national security landscape. Off to the UK for our next story, where we focus on a significant diplomatic escalation between Iran and the UK. Both countries recently summoned each other's top diplomats amid charges that 3 Iranian nationals were involved in spying activities on UK soil. The latest developments reflect worsening tensions between Tehran and London and highlights ongoing concerns about espionage tactics and an increasingly fraught international environment. On Monday, Britain formally summoned Iran's ambassador to the Foreign Office following the filing of charges against 3 Iranian nationals accused of espionage. These men allegedly conducted surveillance on and plotted violence against journalists based in the UK who work for an Iranian news outlet. This arrest and prosecution sent a clear message from the UK government that protecting national security remains paramount and that Iran's covert activities will not be tolerated. In a reciprocal move, Iran summoned a British diplomat to protect what it called the illegal and unjustified detention of an Iranian citizen in the UK. Although details of this individual's arrest remain scarce, Tehran condemned the arrest as a violation of international law and warned that the UK's actions were politically motivated. Iran also cautioned against further unconstructive behavior that could damage diplomatic relations. These tit-for-tat diplomatic summonses demonstrate the fragile state of the UK-Iran relation, with espionage accusations further straining an already tense situation. The diplomatic flare-up comes amid a broader context of long-standing mistrust and confrontation between the two countries. Iran has a long history of conducting espionage operations targeting dissidents, journalists, and political opponents abroad. The UK, for its part, remains vigilant against foreign intelligence threats that may undermine its national security and democratic institutions. Notably, the arrest of these 3 Iranian nationals follow a separate investigation where 4 other Iranians were taken into custody on suspicion of preparing a terrorist act, though those individuals were subsequently released. Counterterrorism efforts continue, underscoring the layered nature of these perceptions surrounding Iran's activities in the UK. This case also fits into a wider pattern of reciprocal diplomatic actions commonly seen between adversarial states, where espionage allegations often lead to expulsions, summons, and a tit-for-tat measure designed to assert strength and defend sovereignty. From an intelligence perspective, these developments highlight the continuing importance of counterintelligence operations in Western countries to detect and disrupt foreign espionage activities. The surveillance and potential violent plotting against journalists linked to Iranian state media reflect a strategy aimed at controlling narratives and intimidating perceived opponents abroad. The reciprocal diplomatic exchanges also serve as a public signaling, where both countries seek to demonstrate resolve and project deterrence without escalating to further conflict. However, such episodes carry the risk of further diplomatic isolation and the erosion of channels for dialogue, which could exacerbate tensions in the long term. The recent espionage charges and subsequent diplomatic summonses between the UK and Iran exemplify how espionage remains a tool of statecraft and modern geopolitics. As Iran continues to exert influence through intelligence operations abroad, countries like the UK must maintain vigilant counterintelligence measures to safeguard their national security and democratic freedoms. Looking ahead, these back-and-forth diplomatic moves may continue as both sides navigate a fragile relationship. It is important to monitor these developments and how they impact the region and global security dynamics, particularly in a volatile Middle East landscape. We now turn to Germany, where 3 German-Russian dual citizens are currently on trial in Munich, accused of spying for the Kremlin and planning sabotage operations targeting critical military and industrial infrastructure. This case highlights ongoing Russian covert efforts in Europe aimed at disrupting support for Ukraine and weakening Western resolve. The trial focuses on Dieter S., the alleged ringleader, along with Alexander J. and Alex D. They stand accused of gathering sensitive information on military facilities, including a U.S. military training base in Bavaria and an oil refinery, as well as planning bomb attacks on buildings supporting Ukraine's defense efforts. Dieter S. is charged with coordinating these sabotage plots and allegedly sharing information with a Russian intelligence agent. Notably, he is also accused of having fought alongside pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine since 2014, suggesting a long-standing connection to Moscow's intelligence apparatus. The other 2 men admitted to some offenses but denied spying for a foreign government. The German authorities arrested the trio in April of 2024 near Bayreuth amid heightened concerns over Russian espionage and sabotage inside Europe. Germany remains on high alert, especially with recent arrest of Ukrainians accused of plotting explosive attacks on cargo transports linked to Russia. Similar sabotage attempts on cargo planes and packages have been uncovered across Europe, including in the UK and Europe, underscoring a coordinated covert campaign. The trial is expected to continue over the coming months and will provide important insights into the scope and methods of Russian espionage efforts targeting Europe's critical infrastructure and its political will to support Ukraine. This is a stark warning for Canada and Canada's oil and gas mining, infrastructure, and manufacturing industries. Canada's continued support for Ukraine since the Russian invasion places us front and center in the crosshairs of Russia's acts of sabotage. The types of reconnaissance conducted by the three accused is exactly what Canadian authorities, private industry, and the Canadian intelligence community should be on the lookout for. Regardless of our separation from Europe over a vast ocean, the reach of Russian intelligence services is truly widespread, as we will see in an upcoming story from this week. This case fits into a broader pattern of Russian espionage operations aimed at destabilizing Western countries engaged in supporting Ukraine against Russian aggression. Moscow's use of deep cover operatives, often referred to as illegals, to recruit dual nationals and individuals with access to sensitive sites to conduct intelligence and gathering sabotage planning. The allegations against CSIS also highlight the overlap between intelligence and paramilitary operations, given his purported involvement with separatist fighters in Donetsk. This dual role complicates counterintelligence efforts, as these actors often have both battlefield experience and tradecraft training. European intelligence agencies have increasingly focused on detecting and disrupting such networks, which pose a significant threat not only to military assets, but also to civilian infrastructure critical to wartime logistics. From an intelligence standpoint, this trial demonstrates the ongoing risk of hybrid warfare tactics, where espionage, sabotage, and covert military activities are intertwined. The targeting of infrastructure that supports Ukraine's defense efforts shows strategic intent to weaken the West's unified response to the conflict in Eastern Europe. The prosecution of these alleged agents serves both a practical and symbolic purpose, aiming to deter further infiltration attempts and reassure the public and allies that such threats are taken seriously. However, the continued discovery of plots across Europe indicates that the Russian intelligence threat remains persistent and adaptive. The trial of these three men in Germany shines a light on the covert operations Russia continues to conduct in Europe, aiming to sabotage military support and sow instability. As Russia's hybrid warfare tactics evolve, Western nations must maintain robust intelligence and counterintelligence capabilities to detect, disrupt, and deter these threats. This case will be closely watched as it progresses and may reveal new details about Moscow's espionage strategies on European soil. We stay in Germany for our next story, where 5 individuals, some reportedly as young as 14, have been arrested for their suspected involvement in a far-right terrorist group known as the Last Wave of Defense. The group is accused of plotting violent attacks on migrants and political opponents with a clear goal of collapsing Germany's democratic system. The arrest took place across Brandenburg, Mecklenburg, Western Pomerania, and Hesse. The suspects, aged 14 to 18, are believed to be members or supporters of the right-wing extremist group, with 2 facing charges of attempted murder and aggravated arson. German prosecutors say they were actively planning attacks, including one on a refugee shelter in September. Authorities also uncovered disturbing evidence, homemade explosives, weapons, and digital propaganda material during raids at 13 properties. Several of the members, aged 18 to 21, are already in custody, with links to attacks on cultural centers and refugee centers dating back to late 2024. What makes this case particularly alarming is the age of the suspects and their rapid radicalization. We're witnessing a disturbing pattern: the digital recruitment of youth into violent extremist networks. The Last Wave of Defense was founded in April 2024 and operates across multiple German states. Their objective? The violent collapse of German democracy, a direct echo of the older neo-Nazi and ultra-nationalistic movements, but now retooled for the TikTok era. Social media platforms like Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok are playing a central role in recruitment. This isn't an isolated group. Germany has seen an emergence of similar extremist outfits like Jung und Stark, der Strohtrupp, and Deutsch Jürgen Wohren. In February, German investigators narrowly foiled a planned bombing of an asylum shelter thanks to information provided by a journalist. Days later, explosives and weapons were found at properties linked to the same network. This growing trend underscores how youth, disillusioned and online, can be rapidly swept into ideologies that promote radical hatred, political violence, and terrorism. German Justice Minister Stephanie Hubig called the arrest particularly shocking, pointing out that all the suspects were minors when the group was formed. Her statement reflects broader concerns within Germany's security services, the increasing radicalization of young people, and the acceleration of violent extremist plots. From a professional lens, this demonstrates how violent ideologies are now finding younger and younger followers. This isn't just a policing issue, it's an intelligence challenge. Detecting early signs of radicalization, especially in youth, using encrypted and ephemeral platforms requires both technological tools and human insight, and it highlights the value of partnerships between journalists, local communities, law enforcement, and intelligence agencies. German authorities have disrupted what appears to be a highly active and dangerously motivated right-wing terrorist group, one whose members are alarmingly young. But this is a trend we have seen in other countries. Australia has also dealt with radicalized youth who have shown a penchant for violence. This may reflect both the amount of time spent online and how these violent organizations are targeting younger and younger members of society who may be more easily influenced by what they ingest online. This case shows the evolution of violent extremism in the digital age, fast-moving, youth-oriented, and ideologically unhinged. Expect more focus from European intelligence agencies on social media monitoring, youth radicalization trends, and coordinated efforts to dismantle these groups because of their domestic threats. In our next story, we're examining a significant revelation out of Brazil. Brazilian counterintelligence agents have uncovered a Russian spy factory, unmasking at least 9 operatives who had been living in the country for years under false identities. Brazilian authorities have identified a network of Russian intelligence operatives who had established deep cover identities within their country. These individuals had been living in Brazil for extended periods, integrating into society and operating under fabricated personas. The exposure of this network highlights the sophisticated methods employed by Russian intelligence to infiltrate foreign nations. The operatives' long-term presence suggests a strategic effort to position assets within Brazil, potentially to monitor political developments, gather intelligence on foreign entities, or establish a base for operations in the Western Hemisphere. Historically, Russian intelligence agencies, such as the SBR and GRU, have utilized illegals, agents operating without official cover, to conduct espionage activities abroad. These operatives often assume identities of deceased individuals or create entirely fictitious personas, allowing them to embed themselves within targeted societies. The technique, where intelligence operatives use tombstone data to build false identities and legends, is covered in my YouTube video entitled Ghouling: How Spies Use the Dead to Advance Intelligence, and I will leave that link in the show notes. Brazil's geographical significance as a member of BRICS and a key player in Latin America makes it an attractive target for foreign intelligence services. The country's diverse population and relatively open society can provide cover for operatives seeking to blend in and avoid detection. The uncovering of this network underscores the importance of robust counterintelligence measures. As a former intelligence officer, I recognize the challenges in detecting deep cover operatives who meticulously craft their identities and integrate into society over years. This case serves as a reminder of the persistent efforts by foreign intelligence services to penetrate nations of strategic interest. It also highlights the need for international cooperation in identifying and countering such threats. The dismantling of the Russian spy factory in Brazil is a significant counterintelligence success. It sheds light on the lengths to which state actors will go to establish clandestine networks abroad. As global tensions persist, nations must remain vigilant against covert operations that threaten their sovereignty and security. For our last story this week, we're examining a recent development from the United Kingdom, where a member of an Irish rap group, Kneecaps, has been charged with terrorism offence, alleging displaying a Hezbollah flag during a concert in London. Liam O'Hara, known by his stage name Mo Chara, is facing charges under the UK's Terrorism Act for allegedly displaying a Hezbollah flag during a performance at London's Kentish Town Forum in November of 2024. The Metropolitan Police Counter-Terrorism Command initiated the investigation after video footage of the incident surfaced online. Mo Chara is scheduled to appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on June 18, 2025. Kneecaps, known for their politically charged lyrics and support for the Palestinian cause, has denied endorsement of Hezbollah or Hamas. The group claims that their statements have been taken out of context and that they are being targeted for their political views. Kneecaps is an Irish-language rap group from Belfast, Northern Ireland, comprising members Mo Chara, Mowgli Bap, and DJ Prove. The trio is known for blending hip-hop with Irish Republican themes and has been vocal in their support for Palestinian rights, often drawing parallels between the Irish struggle and the Palestinian cause. The UK has designated Hezbollah a terrorist organization, and displaying its symbols is a criminal offence under the Terrorism Act of 2000. The charge against Mo Chara highlights the legal boundaries concerning expressions of political support, especially when they intersect with prescribed organizations. This case underscores the delicate balance between freedom of expression and national security. The UK's stringent laws against supporting designated terrorist groups aims to prevent the spread of extremist ideologies. As we have seen in some of the week's stories, youth who follow or listen to the ban could easily be influenced in thinking that Hamas and Hezbollah should be supported. This isn't the first time music and extremism have collided with national security concerns. In Canada, George Birdie was a frontman of the white supremacist band Ra-Ho-Wa, short for Racial Holy War. In the 1990s, Birdie was one of the leading voices in the racist skinhead music scene and helped establish Resistance Records, a label that distributed neo-Nazi music across North America. His concerts weren't just musical performances, they were recruitment tools for hate groups, often ending in violence. In 1995, Birdie was arrested and later convicted of assault, causing bodily harm after he kicked an anti-racist protester during a white power rally in Ottawa. The case became a watershed moment in Canada's efforts to address hate propaganda and extremist recruitment through cultural platforms like music. Birdie eventually renounced his racist beliefs, disbanded Ra-Ho-Wa, and formed a new band with multicultural members. But the legacy of his earlier activities and the role music played in mobilizing hate is reminiscent of Kneecaps frontman and the band's affinity for terrorist groups. These cases show how easily ideology can be smuggled on stage into lyrics and become part of the aesthetics of the musical group. National security organizations and authorities must remain alert to the line between political expression and the promotion of violence. However, the enforcement of these laws can sometimes raise concerns about political policing and the suppression of dissenting voices. The charging of Kneecaps Mochera with the terrorism offense brings to light the complexity surrounding national security, freedom of expression, and political activism. As the case unfolds, it will be essential to monitor how the legal proceedings address these intersecting issues and what implications this may have for artists and political activists in the UK and beyond. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. As always, the links to the stories discussed are available in the transcript of the podcast. I'd like to remind the listeners that on Tuesday, the Pillar Society will be hosting former CSIS Director Ward Elcock to speak at the Shankman Center in Orleans. I believe there are still tickets available for this event, and I highly recommend it for anyone who is interested in Canada's role in national security from the Cold War to post 9/11. Ward is a great speaker with an incredible amount of experience and insight on the Canadian intelligence community. I'll leave a link in the show notes. Who knows, maybe you'll see me there. Until next week, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
That's it for this week's Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. From Russian spy networks embedded in Brazil, to far-right youth radicalization in Germany, to terrorism charges tied to political music in the UK, this week's stories show just how diverse and unpredictable today's intelligence threats have become. Delivering clear, professional analysis each week takes time, training, and a commitment to helping you see beyond the headlines. If you found today's episode valuable, consider leaving a review, sharing the podcast, or recommending it to a colleague. Your support helps grow the community and keeps the conversation going. And if you'd like to go a step further, you can support the show directly through Patreon or Buzzsprout. Whether it's a one-time contribution or a recurring pledge, every bit helps sustain the mission. You'll find the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening. And as Neil always says, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe. See you next week.